violence on the campus quad. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
If President Obama is right that global warming, or to be vague about it, climate change is the danger that he says it is, an immediate threat to national security, are we amiss in using our eyeballs, as some folks did during my absence, and noticing as they did the continual streaking of the sky by jets dropping their plumes and creating cloud cover? That is, after all, the operating theory, at least at one level of the modern state, the federal state, and that is that if we have more clouds, which we make, then we are dimming the sun. We are increasing what's called the albedo of the planet. Sunlight hits these clouds made by our jet trails, and the light is deflected. But there are some, such as Dane Wigington, who runs a research website called geoengineeringwatch.org, who say that the program is a kind of deep state insanity, and that it is suicidal, that the program to dim the sun is in fact accelerating climate change, accelerating the increasing temperatures that are reported around the world, and also giving rise to bizarre weather patterns, including the new style of snow and 4 and 5 foot deep ice falls, hailstorms that have been reported in Italy and I think in Bolivia, and other things such as a drought of biblical proportions in California, and instant and gigantic rainfalls that wash away dams and towns, as recently happened in South Carolina. Well, this is David Tulis, and the threat and alarm posed and proposed by the good people is really elsewhere. The real danger to national security, if we care about that at all, is elsewhere. And the danger is from the people who are talking the most about it, and who are in Paris today at the beginning of the Global Climate Change Conference, that has things to say about local economy and free markets here in Chattanooga, believe it or not, if only by implication. The treatment of the sky over Chattanooga is something that I've been working on for some time. I'd say about a year and a half, since March of last year, when I wrote my first report about it for the website for The Man Who Matters. That website is Nooganomics.com. It is a platform that is connected to my show. It is, in fact, the chief sponsor of my show here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And there we offer a spirited defense of local economy and the free market. And the defenses and the proposals are really remarkable. Now, some people might say that they're incoherent, but if you have a free market perspective, informed as it is by the chief editor's worship of God on Sunday at church, then you can start making sense and see things that are really not available to other people. Other people can't see the things that we see because their presuppositions differ, right? You always see things premised on your ideas, right? Your ideals, your presuppositions, some of which may be true, some of which may be fallacious, some of which are religious in nature. I'd say presuppositions are almost always religious in nature, and they rise from what you view as the final authority, right? What you view as the source of truth and law and right and good. That is your religious foundation, and every man has such a worldview, if you will, such a presupposition. And from that perspective, he sees or he doesn't see certain things. So in my perspective, which is very suspicious of mankind, which something shared by the Protestant Reformation, by Martin Luther, by John Calvin, by Moses, who wrote the account of the fall and the first 5 books of the Bible. the doubt of man is something that we should all learn to appreciate. It is something that we should have grow in our minds, so that we can hear about climate conferences in Paris and hear and read about, as we do at Nooganomics.com, the geoengineering effort, which is afoot already. If President Obama is right, and global warming is an immediate threat to national security, do we not suppose that the program is already underway? Why do we have to pretend that it is just a matter of academia, of papers going back and forth, of conferences on climate change, conferences as the one recently in Berlin on geoengineering, which of course means altering the weather to suit ourselves, right? Altering the weather to suit policy. These things are already well in effect. And because we deem them already in effect, we can see many of the things come together a bit more easily if you have the presupposition, which again is the doubt of man and the doubt of man's good intentions, especially those who have fought their way to the top. And as we read in von Mises and other writers, great power draws to it the greatest voluptuaries, right? The greatest tyrants, the greatest despots, the greatest geniuses for bringing about important changes on a vast scale. And that is what the modern welfare warfare state has done. It has brought to the head people like the Bush family and the Clintons, and of course the Kennedys, and now we have the prospect of a Donald Trump perhaps being the man at the top, a longtime debt capitalist, a longtime crony entrepreneur who feeds off of the systems created artificially in the economy by the federal state and its regulatory apparatus. Well, the name is David Tulis, and we are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And the climate change conference has not done much to alleviate the lack of sunshine here in Chattanooga. It's raining. It was drizzly yesterday and today as well. And I'm not sure what the forecast is. I think it may clear a little bit by tomorrow, if I'm remembering what I heard David Carnes say on the television this morning. I'm an advocate of the marketplace, and I have a difficult argument to make. And the argument that is difficult to make is the one that combines another line of analysis, which would suggest to me that I should be all for a tyrannical total border and a screening process by the feds to keep out it's very rigorous to keep out immigrants, right, in order to keep out terrorists. Now, the reason my position and analysis is complex and very difficult is that of all the media outlets here in Chattanooga, this one, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, has most clearly enunciated the doctrines of Sharia. We have most gone in great lengths to discuss Sharia and the rise of the warfare against the West, especially against Christianity, by Muslims. Not Muslims individually, of course, but the Muslim system of thought, the political ideology, which is Islam. And we are giving a really strong discussion about this, including, as I hope to today, to get to the discussion about the rape culture of Islam. Islam is a culture of rape. Rape is a right and privilege for Muslim warriors, and white slavery was a great phenomenon back in the 1600s, 1700s. And of course, well before then, Muslims were the greatest traders in slaves worldwide, and they fed many black slaves to the white traders along the coast of Africa. And of particular value to Muslims is the white female. White females bring huge prices in the market. Though ISIS fighters are trading some girls, females, for as little as a pack of cigarettes. Now, how, if we are going to discuss this threat, this national security threat, so-called, how is it that at the same time, we, as boosters of local economy and free markets, can say, well, we're not worried about the Muslim surge that President Obama proposes for Highway 58. And he proposes it, I would like to think, for evil intent. I would like to be suspicious of his intentions, because he is, after all, a Muslim, and he would like there to be as many Muslims in this country as possible, even if they are not from the same family in Islam as he, even if they are the weak-kneed, lily-livered Muslims that are Syrians, right? Those are kind of westernized form of Muslims. They're not the Wahhabis. They're not the Saudi types. They're not the ISIS types. They have a different family lineage in Islam. Even though he's willing to accept them, he's willing to have them come over here just on the hope that maybe they can be in the long term beneficial to the rise of total domination, the eventual total domination of Islam, of the entire world, of every speck of land, every town, every township, every unincorporated area. It is the duty of the faithful Muslim, the most ordinary Muslim, to bring eventually into subjection all of the globe to the deity. His name is Allah, worshipped by Muslims. So how can we have two views, an open borders viewpoint favoring the free market, favoring liberty, and at the same time willingly discussing the slaughter of innocent people, Yazidis or Christians, fellow Muslims, by the aggressive, faithful commoners who man the trenches, who man the pits of ISIS, and who are perhaps even now plotting. These are domestic Muslims plotting to bring about deliverance from the West. There's a story in American Thinker that touches on this question of rape crisis, and what is marked about police departments and authorities around in the West. What marks them is a status called dimitude. Dimitude is when people who have not been yet subjugated start falling, right? Remember, I'm trying to think of the story of Queen Esther. There was the man who was an Amalekite intent on destroying the Israelites, and he had planned to hang Esther's uncle Mordecai. But he is already beginning to fall, and so on the day before his hanging, he is told by his wife and friends, "We see that you are already beginning to fall because Mordecai has arranged things against you, and your stratagem to destroy the Israelites in the kingdom will not come to pass." So he is already beginning to fall, and so dimitude is a state in which people who are beginning to fall under the fear of Islam, right? The fear of death that the faithful Muslim implies in every transaction. His status, that of the one looking at that Muslim party, that status is dimitude. That frame of mind has taken hold in the West. Police departments are helpless to do anything. Defendants, criminal defendants in rape cases in Sweden, England, Norway, Denmark, and other places are incapable of acting. They are capable of trying young Muslim men. In Sweden, for example, from 1975 to the present, rape has increased 1,472%. It is based on this model. It is projected, according to Carol Brown, writing in American Thinker, that 1 in 4 Spanish women and sometimes little girls will be raped. Rape of men and boys also is on the rise, and so we have these young men sweeping the continent and exercising a right. Right, rape is a right of warfare. So you may have come across the border of Hungary as a refugee, but really you're there as part of a conquest in your mind, and so infidel women can be raped as part of Islamic law and part of a long-standing tradition going back for centuries. Importing Muslims en masse, Carol Brown says, has taken a toll across the continent. With a recent avalanche of young Muslim males sweeping across Europe, violence is rising even further, including rape. In Great Britain, rape is on an industrial scale. Women no longer feel safe taking a taxi cab. Meanwhile, Muslim child sex trafficking gangs have become so pervasive that there are as many as 1 million victims. Okay, these are victims who are thought to be due their treatment. They're due their treatment because they are not Muslims, and therefore they are rightly subjugated. They've covered up the truth. Authorities often blaming the victims, political leaders, the police, the courts, the media, you name it. She says they're overflowing with cowards, leaving children to suffer the unthinkable horrors of kidnapping, torture, and rape. And the Gatestone Institute has detailed studies of this phenomenon, including women raped to death, or just raped so many times that they die from this cultural misunderstanding, as it's called. In Spain, the situation is so dire that women don't leave their house after dark for fear of being raped by Muslim men. In Denmark, more than half of convicted rapists are Muslim. In Norway, there has been a dramatic spike. She says in Oslo, 10% of females over the age of 15 have been raped by Muslim men, with Muslim men guilty in 100% of the rapes against Norwegian women. Rape in Oslo is so common that hotels hand out keychain alarms when people check in, and increasingly Norwegian women go out only in groups. And of course, you have the ACLU and others here in Tennessee, which are defenders of Islam. They are apologists, and they would never defend the Southern culture with its enslavement of blacks. They would never do that. But here, they are vigilant to defend the character of Islam, the religion of peace. And so if these things are true, how is it that the local economy argument, which I would like to suggest is a biblical argument, how is it that we can say that Syrian refugees should be welcomed, and that Marina Pestarianu, the lady who's in charge of bridge refugee services, is not doing us an injury or doing damage or bringing evil into Chattanooga? How is it that she can't be said to be bringing an evil into Chattanooga if she is going to be bringing eventually hundreds of refugees from Syria and maybe other points of the Mideast into Chattanooga? Well, we have to remember that Mohammed Abdulaziz, the attacker here in Chattanooga, was a faithful commoner, right? He was an ordinary Muslim man, went faithfully to the mosque, had his moral problems, had some doubts about himself. And because there's no promise of salvation in Islam apart from jihad, he felt that to make himself right with God, his deity, he had to exercise the political imperial prerogative of the Muslim man. That is to take charge and to make war and to destroy, if not to bring to conversion, to destroy the malefactors, those who stand defiantly against truth and justice and the right, which in this case, here in Chattanooga in July, were American military people in two locations. So he was a local man. The immigrants are much less likely to be the ones the cause of danger, but rather those who are well acclimated with the system, those who know how to make a car rental, as he did, those who know how to buy weapons and ammunition at the local sporting goods store, as Muhammad did, those who know about taking classes, those who know about the way things work, those who have some sense of where things are in a town that are possible targets. Well, the Wall Street Journal is confirming that it's the local people who are the danger, not necessarily the immigrants. There's a story in today's editions, and the headline is "German officials warn of new security risk, local extremists recruiting refugees." Okay, so you have refugees who have some Muslim background, and they will be, according to this report, they will be the object of recruitment by people such as in Great Britain. There's a domestic minister of the gospel, if you will, Pierre Vogel, and he is a German convert to Islam. He published a how-to guide on Facebook in September on reaching out to migrants to help them in their worship, though it makes no suggestion of drawing them into extremism. Of course, it doesn't have to do that. This is the religion of Islam here, put to use to the political ideology of Islam, and Pierre Vogel in Germany and others in England are bringing bringing strangers in, giving them comfort, giving them aid, having conversations in the original language, right? And they are viewed as dangers, again, because they're going to draw the newcomers into attacks on targets in the West. Now you say, well, you're not making your point very well, David Tulis. And well, I haven't finished making it. So I hope you'll bear with me. It's a complicated subject, but I think the main point we want to remember is we don't want to criminalize something that's not criminal. It's not a crime. It shouldn't be a crime to enter the United States, just as it isn't a crime and shouldn't be a crime for me as a Tennessean to cross into Georgia. It's not a crime, right? I can walk over there. I can move there without asking anybody permission. The United States should be the same. There should be no regard to it. Well, why do we say that? Well, because there is no United States anymore. It doesn't exist. We started with a constitutional republic, and practically we don't have that anymore. So what we have is a monolith. We have an administrative state monolith that George Will writes about, speaking very praiseworthily the other day of Justice Thomas. We don't have what we started with. And so why do we take up its grievances? This is David Tulis. I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on.
Give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect a very wet and foggy start to your Monday with more showers moving through. High 63 to 65 tonight. Some lingering showers, more fog, lows upper 50s. For Tuesday, another round of rain will push on through near 65, gradually drying out and turning cooler for the midweek. Old Man Winter is coming back soon, but Dodge City Ski Shop will keep you and your family toasty warm with the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. That's Dodge City Ski Shop, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices and one-stop package in the Sunrise Market Center Sunny Daisy, the brand new one-stop package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new one-stop package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new one-stop package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine.
You have an event coming up for the holidays, or maybe it is your daughter's wedding, or maybe just a church or office party, then you need to select Choo Choo Barbecue. That's correct, Choo Choo Barbecue. Whether you like pork, chicken, or beef, oh yes, Choo Choo Barbecue with their savory rub flavor. Oh my goodness, it's making me hungry right now. You add in their delicious smoked aroma, and you have set the table for a perfect meal with Choo Choo Barbecue. That's right, Choo Choo Barbecue. Why don't you give them a call right now? 423-843-9554. That's 843-9554. Call 423-843-9554. Choo Choo Barbecue. You know where it's located, off of Hickson Pike, right there at the Valley Brook area. Don't kid yourself. Your stomach is already on the way.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News ready to go. I'm Pam Puso.
We can show the world what is possible when we come together.
President Obama at a climate conference in France.
The president saying the world faces a bleak future unless aggressive action is taken to combat climate change. Organizers say there are 150 world leaders present.
Fox's Simon Owen in Paris. Authorities in Colorado Springs still searching for a motive.
Robert Louis Deere is set to make his first court appearance via video. He is being held without bond after being arrested Friday evening after shootings in an hours-long standoff at the Planned Parenthood that left 3 people dead and 9 others hurt.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. The doorbuster sales are digital. It's Cyber Monday.
95% of consumers indicated that they will be shopping today.
Trey Baj with Retail Me Not. Many retailers are offering discounts and free shipping. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
City Councilman Yusuf Hakim is proposing that people who apply for work with city government not be required to state up front their criminal histories. This is an effort to make it less likely that an applicant will be dropped with a shudder, and that if he continues in the interview process and the application process, that his criminal background come into view with a more reasoned and more open-minded approach. Because after all, we have more prisoners per capita than any country in the world, maybe than in history. And the damage that the modern state has imposed upon people, especially Black people, is enormous and cannot ever be undone. It can't be undone. And so the black man who is imprisoned by welfare, imprisoned by the free money, he is drawn into servitude by the free dough. On the other hand, is often made criminal by various statutes, some of which make criminal acts which aren't necessarily sins, right? But they're nonetheless crimes, and he is damaged by his prison record, and bringing to him lifelong problems. So Yusuf Hakim is proposing a resolution that has it's a resolution, that I think may become an ordinance of some kind, or would lay the groundwork for an ordinance that that gives Black men a chance that they don't have when they have to declare right up front that they have a record. It is resolved that the City Council not ask questions regarding an applicant's prior criminal convictions on any preliminary employment application documents. Okay, later the question can come up, but not on the preliminary forms. And then the second part of the resolution is that departmental inquiries into and consideration of a candidate's prior criminal conviction take place only after the submission of the application and as part of the background check conducted in the normal course of doing business. So it has to come up, as I said, later. And also that departments review and consider an applicant's criminal conviction in accordance with all local, state, and federal requirements. And that this resolution finally, in one sort of a footnote, says it does not create any substantive right. In other words, that you can't. There's no right that inheres in this process. And again, that is an effort to undo the damage the modern skimming economy, the modern state has brought upon the race of people formerly enslaved and enslaved again with the free money, with the welfare. The plantation house in Washington, the big White House in Washington, being the master of innumerable families that are that are ancestors of those people brought over as slaves from Africa. Many of them sold to the white slavers by Muslims, by the way. This is David Tulis. We're brought to you by Edward Jones. Edward Jones has an office here in Hickson, serving you, and the man behind the desk is Patrick Neal. You might want to call him for an appointment to see about what Edward Jones can do for your portfolio. His number is 870-7894. That's 870-7894. His office is behind the Cutta Banking Company, right next to the Target. It's in the next little shopping center on the north side of Target. And also, if you need to eat out and want to eat out, or have an event catered here in post-Thanksgiving and pre-Christmas season, don't forget the name of Choo Choo Barbecue in Hickson. Hickson Choo Choo Barbecue catering is a great specialty, and it's pork or chicken or beef. It's all very good fare, and you'll enjoy the secret rub that Choo Choo Barbecue uses, and its delicious smoked flavor. Now call the number 870-7894 to make inquiries. That's 870-7894. Locally owned outfit, locally owned as can be. And my name is David Tulis. Now I've got a call here, and this is David Tulis. And caller, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
No, sometimes I'll call just to create maybe a little controversy. This time I'm for real. I am so sick of the poor blacks. The poor. I mean, come on. It's been 150 years since slavery. Blacks need to get up off their rear end, like Judge Thomas did, and many other blacks, some of which have made it to the Supreme Court, and stop using this as an excuse. You know, you do the right thing. A cop's not going to pull you over and beat you up. Matter of fact, Chattanooga police are way too lenient. Delivering pizza to gang members, they need to be busting their heads. They need to do frisk and search. There's a shooting every day in Chattanooga. It's more dangerous to be in the city of Chattanooga than it is to be in Baghdad. We got a Democrat, liberal Chattanooga chief of police and mayor, and these people need to be thrown out. These cops need to be given frisk and search rights. They need to bust these guys' heads. They need to infiltrate these gangs and stop the poor blacks. They were in slavery, blah, blah, blah. That's an excuse. It's an excuse. Build more prisons till they get their act together. Thanks.
Well, that is a very irate set of comments there, and we're told, Yusuf Hakim is being told by this intemperate caller that he needs just to get over it. He's black. He needs to not keep whining about the past and whining about the circumstances of blacks today. Well, maybe, but certainly, city government has an option, since it is an independent corporation, and this ordinance, I don't believe, would violate any constitutional provisions in the exercise of its authority. It can have that query about criminal background come in later in the job seeking process, and it's not because blacks need another help. David Tulis, caller, you're on the air. What's on your mind?
David, I love you. But you know, there was a woman that went to prison that was interviewed on Channel 3, I believe. She wants to keep that in there because of what she did, how she brought herself up from the ghetto. And she said, you know, I want to tell my story. I'm not embarrassed about going to jail. Who hasn't been to jail? 90% of America. You know, they look for an excuse. And she wants to tell her story. But on top of that, if you're employing someone, I know it's going to start at the city level. I have a right to ask you any questions I want to ask you. And that's being denied employers' rights. When the state steps in and says you can't ask certain questions,
well, this is not a
violation of their free speech and their exercise thereof.
This is not a state issue.
Communicate with one.
This is a local issue, and it's from state government, an initiative that would be an ordinance. It starts off as a resolution, and I believe would become an ordinance in the city charter.
Unconstitutional.
Well, again, my argument for in favor of Mr. Hakim's resolution taking fire. There's a story at Chattanooga about Volkswagen. Lawyers are one in Knoxville and one in Nashville are suing over emissions, and particularly the question is over the stock value and statements made by high administration over the value of the shares. The suit says Volkswagen stock values were as high as $56.55 a share, according to Chattanooga.com, but that the shares fell to about $24, just under $24, when the fraud was brought to light. Of course, that's a reference to the emissions lying software that understated the distribution of nitrogen oxide from the tailpipe. The attorneys are James Stranch of Nashville and Michael Wolfenbarger of Knoxville, and that does not say who the plaintiff is, but the story does say that the defendants include Audi and Volkswagen officials, Michael Winterkorn, Herbert Deese, and others. There's a story also at the Times Free Press highlighting juvenile court judge Rob Filial, and he's pointing out, the story points out something that once again is a state solution to a problem that needs to be I would say a grace and church connected solution and a marketplace based private solution among these young men who are said to be members of gangs and who identify as gang members and who are a little frisky with the firearms, a little careless with the use of firearms, and endanger the innocent with their careless use of weapons. They are members of gangs, or you might say clubs with a certain edge. They are needing encouragement, according to a story in the Times Free Press, of a mental and psychological nature. That the answer, we are told in this story that focuses on juvenile court judge Rob Filial, the solution is psychological and mental. I would like to suggest that the solution might be economic, meaning entrepreneurial related, and also spiritual, which means that the answer, the solution that one would hope God would bring to them to save them, is, you could say, religious in nature. In other words, it's religious in nature because what has to happen for them to stop being violent, to stop being opportunistic, to have a longer term perspective than just the next lay or just the next shootout with rival gang members, or the next sale of a little bit of narcotics. There has to be an orientation that is not self-directed. It has to be a kind of other-centricness, otherness, an other orientation. That doesn't come by any government program, even if that government program teaches the benefits of looking out for others. Okay, I don't think the government has the moral wherewithal, or even the administrative wherewithal to make that happen. The story says local group lures young people away from gangs by offering mental health, and I didn't print out the whole headline, mental health services, I presume. This story says in the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Gang members in particular, the judge said he senses a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. Judge Filial goes on to tell the newspaper, a feeling of hopelessness that they're never going to make it to age 19. They're not going to be able to get out of this cycle of poverty and things, and helplessness because they don't know how. They have no male figure in their lives for the most part. They are suffering, what he says, are mental and emotional problems. There's a juvenile court administrator, Sam Mayer, tells the newspaper all of them could benefit from therapy, even if just counseling in terms of day-to-day stuff. These kids have all been through and more than most of us can imagine. The program is welcomed by the judge. It's run by Volunteer Behavioral Health, which runs the Johnson Mental Health Center in Chattanooga. And it's gotten a 5-year grant from Tennessee taxpayers and Nashville, the Nashville government, to help troubled teens find mental health resources. Well, when I hear that, finding mental health resources, you know what I think? I think we have one more program to make people dependent on the state, to make people dependent on state actors, on state counselors, on state advisors, on state sounding boards, on a state program, which is not what they need. Young men don't need to be dependent. I would say they don't even need employment. Okay. And you might say, wait a minute. Whoa. They don't need employment. Well, no, not really. I think what they need to have is entrepreneurship. They need to be in charge of something. They need to own something, and they need to not be constantly in the shadow. And that's what happens with you could say the welfare and police state structures that are all about young people, especially if they're anywhere near a government subsidized housing complex or a rundown part of town. The police are always there. There's constant intervention by the state, armed intervention by armed people wearing uniforms they are military people who view these young black men as civilians, right? Civilians who are troubling and perhaps in trouble, or who may get into trouble. So we have to deal with them to prevent them from going bad, right? Somehow we can do that. Filial is convinced, the story says, that for many juveniles, trouble starts almost at infancy with a lack of social interaction. He said he has 2 cases in his courtroom in which infants had been left strapped into car seats, propped up against a wall in the home for long periods of time, so long that the backs of their heads have become flattened. That's a phenomenon we see quite a bit of, where children are not allowed to lie on their backs for fear of, or not allowed to lie on their fronts for fear of suffocation. So that these infants are kept on their backs, and their heads grow. The backs of their heads don't protrude; they're straight up. And that's a child rearing error of the past 15, 20 years that we see results of. And Judge Filial implies that there's a home problem, and indeed that's right. How can mental health services resolve that or undo that? Well, they could, I suppose. They could if they dealt with the soul issue, the heart issue that underlies these young men and their violent disposition, their desire to be free of outside claim, outside responsibility. They're looking after themselves, right? Their own pleasures, their own glory, their own muscle, their own swag, and not brooking any challenge to their manliness. Right? That's one reason you have gangs, is because these men they're testosteronal beings, and they don't like being suppressed. They certainly don't like being suppressed by the police. The police, in suppressing these men and by military force, repeated searches, repeated knockdowns, repeated jailings, repeated detentions, repeated rides in the cruiser. All right, there is something that makes a young man just defy that machine. I would too. If I were them, though I'm a Caucasian, I would feel the same way. I would feel I've got to somehow be my own man. And the police simply exacerbate the gang problem. I know you think that sounds a little strange, but I believe that policing exacerbates gangs. And I'd say until there's a crime, we should just leave people be. This does come back. This question, as I framed it just then, that does come back to the whole question about the purpose of the state and the free market argument for not criminalizing people and not criminalizing things and activities that are not sins, right? That are not. There's nothing wrong with many things that people are trapped for which they're charged or accused or beaten or chased by the state. The story says, besides helping with mental health issues, volunteer behavioral health will assist clients. Again, we've got clients, right? Do young black men want to be clients? They really don't. They really don't want to be a client. They want to be men, okay? They want to be men. How can a man be a man? Well, probably not as an employee, though he could certainly learn things by being there, but maybe by being an owner. So how do we get men to be owners? To be responsible, to think for themselves, to not constantly be under the gun of the machine, right? The machine is the licensing, regulatory, police apparatus that is all around them. Everywhere they go, they see either its extensions for care and mercy and help, or obligation, right? Obligation and distrust of them, distrust of their manhood. To find jobs, okay, will assist clients, here to finish the sentence in the story in the Times Free Press, clients to find jobs and stay in school. Well, right there, I marked those 2 words. All right. Find jobs and stay in school. Well, that's not very manly. If you stay in school, how manly are you? If you stay in school, you're subjecting yourself to a dehumanizing and depersonalizing machine. If you find a job, are you not working for someone? Well, okay, you might say I'm reaching for something that's not attainable. Well, maybe, but I do that because I want you to see something different than what you've already thought about this matter. A man who has an enterprise, he is in charge, right? I own my business, the radio station. I own Nooganomics.com. I'm in charge, okay? I take responsibility for everything that happens. And that's very invigorating. That's very exciting. And these young men need to feel the same way. So what can we do to get them to start little businesses, right? What can we do to serve the customer, right? The customer is not the tyrant. In a way, the customer is a boss. But the owner has the whole thing in charge. He has the risk, which is exciting, and he has the prospect of the profit. Again, exciting for the young man. So how do we connect? I'm thinking of Ezra Mays here. I'm thinking of Ezra Mays, the minister. How do we get these young men to not be clients? I think that's very difficult. We live in a state, in a time where we don't have neighborhoods anymore. We don't have community really anymore. We are a society of institutions. Many of them are simple facets of the state, and these are effeminizing, I would like to suggest. And when these institutions, especially the police, press upon these young men, there is going to be blowback. Okay, there's going to be resistance, and I understand that resistance. I wouldn't respond that way, perhaps by God's grace, but they don't have God's grace. Okay, they really don't, because they don't have God's grace. They don't deal with these challenges to their manhood very well. They don't work within the system. They don't try to become independent within the framework of the marketplace. They are outside the marketplace. They have an illicit marketplace of favors, threats, territory, and the like, all of which are very understandable, very manly, and they are being beaten down by the police. They're seen now needing mental health treatment. Well, maybe Judge Filia has a point. I understand what he's saying. Within his context, I understand what he's saying. I'm not criticizing him. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing him, but I'm saying, is he somehow missing the point? And is the point that we need to have a free market? We need to have a personal local economy where a man can start a business without anybody telling him that he can't. All right. What that means is that he needs to be able to start a business without asking permission from anybody if there's no crime involved in that business. If it's a business of common calling, an occupation of common right, why is he having to ask permission from anybody? And why is he having to pay people who have contributed nothing to it and contribute nothing to society? And by that, I'm suggesting here that maybe much of what we pay taxes for contributes nothing to our overall prosperity, but simply is a kind of a cartel favoring a class of employees who are state or county or city employees. Judge Filia, in his speeches, according to the Times Free Press story, challenges business owners to make special effort to offer part-time jobs to teens. And he has a good quote here. He says, "Let them see the rewards of work, be part of a team, and get a sense of belonging. It may not be your easiest hire. You may have," he warns, "discipline problems." But Judge Filia is right. This is how people in business, like you, my listener, need to think in this direction. Okay, think about hiring someone. It's all we've got, right? We can't bring about the vision that I've espoused, but we can start by taking up his suggestion. I would say that hiring someone is much better than putting someone in a mental health program. That's the last thing this young man wants, is to be on the rolls as a mental health client, right? We don't want that. He doesn't want that. If he knows that that's what he's going to get, he's not going to want it. Believe me, I wouldn't want it either. And so these young men who are members of gangs, we need to see that the solutions are not state. All right, they're not. We don't need to expand the client base of the state to have new types of clients. That's the last thing we need. We need a free market, and I think we need what the Christian church has to offer on the Lord's Day. That's yesterday, the first day of the week, Sunday on the calendar, and it offers grace. It offers the promises of salvation. And it offers the greatest example of humankind, that is the God-man Jesus Christ. Of course, Jesus was fully God and fully man in one person, without confusion as to his two natures. He was wholly God and yet wholly a man with a reasonable mind and a reasonable normal body as we have. And that is a compelling, I might say a revolutionary development in history. And it's a revolutionary, you could say counter-revolutionary idea. And it will go far over time to bring these young men into the marketplace where they can become heroes in a different way. And maybe they'll marry and have children, right? That's kind of, they can become domesticated, right? By love and marriage in the Christian context. This is David Tulis. We are brought to you by Superior Air Systems.
Expect a
in the
very
Big Orange
wet and
fans.
foggy start to your Monday with more showers moving through. High 63 to 65 tonight. Some lingering showers, more fog, lows upper 50s. For Tuesday, another round of rain will push on through near 65, gradually drying out and turning cooler for the midweek. Old Man Winter is coming back soon, but Dodge City Ski Shop will keep you and your family toasty warm with the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. That's Dodge City Ski Shop, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
I love my Flex loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial. Welcome.
Lay your burdens down at the Woodhouse. Leave all your worries at the door. Just take some time. We're transforming lives.
Happy holidays
At the Wood.
from the Woodhouse Day Spa. Holiday gift cards available at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Patrick Neal, in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
You have an event coming up for the holidays, or maybe it is your daughter's wedding, or maybe just a church or office party, then you need to select Choo Choo Barbecue. That's correct. Choo Choo Barbecue. Whether you like pork, chicken, or beef. Oh, yes. Choo Choo Barbecue with their savory rub flavor. Oh, my goodness. It's making me hungry right now. You add in their delicious smoked aroma, and you have set the table for a perfect meal. Choo Choo Barbecue. That's right. Choo Choo Barbecue. Why don't you give them a call right now? 423-843-9554. That's 843-9554. Call 423-843-9554. Choo Choo Barbecue. You know where it's located, off of Hickson Pike, right there at the Valley Brook area. Don't kid yourself. Your stomach is already on the way.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead. 622-3156.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer service, the most competitive prices around.
Cell Surgeon, a painless operation to fix your sick device.
Well, if you have a cheap charger or something that's not really designed for your phone, it can mess with your battery. It can actually fry your phone. So you need to make sure you have a quality product that's going to be designed for your phone.
Cell Surgeon, your smartphone doctor's in the house at the Northgate Mall Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
If you charge it in the morning and, by noon, it's at, 50% under normal use. That means your battery's pretty much dead. And once you've reached that point, it starts to deteriorate.
Cell surging. Call 423-668-0100 or go to cellphonerepairchattanooga.com.
We do free estimates. If your phone's not working properly, bring it in. We're more happy to take a look at it and diagnose it and see what we think is wrong with it at no charge. Most phone repairs can be done in 30 minutes or less.
Cell surging, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga. CBS News, I'm Frank Chattanooga. The first trial of a Baltimore police officer in connection with the death last spring that led to days of unrest is getting underway. CBS News correspondent Barry Bagnetto is there.
There's a noticeable but not smothering police presence outside this courthouse and a handful of noisy demonstrators as the first of 6 police trials begins. Officer William G. Porter is accused of failing to secure Freddie Gray in the police van where Gray sustained the spinal cord injury that killed him. Defense lawyers want the trial moved, saying it's impossible to find an unbiased jury in this city racked by riots after Gray's death. But the process is beginning with careful questioning of prospective jurors. Barry Bagnetto, CBS News, Baltimore.
At the climate summit in France, President Obama said the United States is ready to do its part to fight climate change.
The United States of America not only recognizes our role in creating this problem, we embrace our responsibility to do something about it.
The gathering outside Paris gave the president a chance to speak one-on-one with Russian President Vladimir Putin. CBS's Pam Coulter has that part of the story.
Meeting with Putin on the sidelines of the summit, President Obama offered condolences for the Russian pilot who was killed when his plane was shot down by Turkey, and he urged the Russian president to ease tensions with Turkey. Mr. Obama also called on Putin to focus Russia's airstrikes on ISIS targets and not regime opponents in Syria.
The 7,000 or so Peace Corps volunteers serving in 65 countries face a variety of risks, and sexual assault is one of the biggest threats. CBS's Chris Van Cleve tells us those who've been through it can feel isolated and helpless.
More than 500 volunteers have reported experiencing a sexual assault in a little over 2 years. We spoke with nearly a dozen who questioned how their recent cases were handled. They told us they felt criticized and were threatened they would be fired.
A spokeswoman says that's unacceptable, and the Peace Corps is addressing the problem. Donald Trump was hoping that he'd come away from a meeting today with black ministers with their blessing to run for president, but that won't happen. A minister who organized the event says any talk of an endorsement was a miscommunication.
Numerous other pastors scheduled to be at the meeting have released statements making it clear their presence is not an endorsement. One pastor said Trump must address issues of racism and criminal justice reform.
CBS News correspondent Major Garrett. A pair of moderate earthquakes rocked most of Oklahoma and parts of Kansas overnight. There were no immediate reports of any injuries or serious damage. Millions of Americans and billions of their dollars will be parted today. Cyber Monday is expected to generate a record $3 billion in online sales. Jill Gonzalez with Wallet Hub says some digital doorbusters are too good to pass up.
The best retailers this year, really for Cyber Week, are going to be Groupon with an average discount of about 62%, Belk with 59%, and then Bon-Ton with 56%.
The Dow Industrials are down 28 points. This is CBS News.
I love running errands. Grocery store, giddy up. Take the kitty to the vet, absolutely. Because my catnip is called the Sirius XM Free Listening Event. 2 weeks of commercial-free music, plus sports, news, comedy, talk, and entertainment for free. Tune in now and get that feeling that starts with H and ends with happy.
The Sirius XM Free Listening Event now through December 2nd. Hit the SAT button on your inactive satellite radio to listen now. Learn more at SiriusXM.com/listen free. Sirius XM, Road Happy, not available on select radios.
Today through Cyber Monday, Ancestry is offering the lowest price of the year on Ancestry DNA at tryancestry.com. It's an unbelievable discount on a simple test that lets you look 1,000 years into your family's ethnic past. Also through Monday, save big on all Ancestry memberships. Give the gift of family and uncover the mysteries of your ancestors and ethnic origins. This offer is only available through Monday at tryancestry.com. That's tryancestry.com.
Archaeological treasures from two ancient cities have come back to life for all to see in London. CBS's Larry Miller has the story.
Relics from two underwater Egyptian cities lost to the sea for more than 1,000 years are going on display at the British Museum in London. Historians knew of the lost cities, but they were only discovered submerged at the mouth of the Nile River 2 decades ago by underwater archaeologists. The cities thrived for 1,500 years before rising sea levels wiped them out around the 8th century AD. Many of the 300 objects in the exhibition, preserved under the seabed, show how the Greek and Egyptian empires came together. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
The Big Apple's going after big salt. Starting tomorrow, chain restaurants in New York City will have to put salt shaker emblems on menu items with more than a teaspoon of sodium, the current recommended daily limit. Experts say most Americans eat too much salt, putting them at risk for high blood pressure and heart disease. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
I love running errands. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
I'd like to put in your mind kind of an odd idea. I know you're thrifty. I know you're saving. I know you're very conscious of liquidity, the need to be liquid, and the need to divest national and invest local. Well, your wife might want to have some special treat, and I'd like to suggest that she try the Woodhouse Day Spa, or rather that you try it for her by getting her a gift card. It's at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com. That's chattanooga.woodhousespas.com, and it's a luxurious place at Warehouse Row, and there are all kinds of treatments that she would enjoy, that are memorable to her, that would be healthful to her. The goal of the spa is to enhance well-being of your sweetheart. Upon entering, you're treated to a warm smile, a luxurious robe, and reflexology sandals that release the day's distress. And you find out more about this fine establishment, new in town, at Warehouse Row. That's Woodhouse Day Spa at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com. And you can buy a gift certificate for your beloved there. Just figure out what she would enjoy the most, and you can buy that with a credit card. Speaking of health in another way, if you are needing to see a doctor, try Danielle Mitchell. She runs Chattanooga Sports Institute here in Hickson on North Access Road, not far from the Access Pharmacy that everyone goes to, the local pharmacy. Danielle runs our show, This Doc is in the House, and hers is a family practice with an orthopedics interest. That's why it's sports medicine, and also urgent care. You can call for an appointment at 875-1005. That's 875-1005, ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. She is a direct care provider. What that means is that she doesn't deal with insurance. She doesn't deal with government. She deals with you paying cash. And she joined the local economy revolution October the 1st. And we welcome her certainly to that endeavor, and other doctors who are in the same line as Danielle Mitchell. We're members of Trade Bank of Chattanooga, the smarter way to barter and to improve your cash flow. You trade among 400 local businesses, really in every field. And you can learn more by talking with Jürgen Mutz, the German with the Southern twang. And he is at 877-2202, 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. You deal in Trade Bank dollars. We're making the case for local economy and the free market. And I want to tell you what happened in 1921 with the closing of the border, right? The closing of the American border. One state of all of them defied the Yankee claim over the border. Now, prior to 1921, the borders were open. There was no control on immigration, but the immigration statute was passed under what could be called a kind of racist and occultic and a Marxist socialist ideology, and every state closed the borders, and there was severe limitation on inflows of immigrants to the United States. And today we're taking fewer immigrants a year, legal or illegal, than it was taking in the period between 1900 and 1921. Only Texas fought back, and it was, according to Budget Al-Madinov, it was faithful to its Christian history of liberty and to the constitutional order, which didn't give or don't give the federal government authority to control immigration, right? The federal government does not have that authority. And so Texas revolted. The border between Texas and Mexico remained open. And he points out that this wasn't during a time of relative peace. It was a quite disturbing time. There had been a revolution in Mexico, 1910 to 1920. There were gangs from Mexico crossing the border, making raids on American ranchers. And so Texas had the Texas Rangers to patrol the border. And there were also, in this open border period in Texas, there were free white men and maybe even some black men, private militiamen, who prevented marauders from the South. Well, the border was kept open. And you say, well, wait a minute. There were gangs attacking America and the border was kept open? Indeed, it was. Why? Well, individuals who came over with their families to find gainful employment and to find safety during that period, Mexican immigrants worked to build the great cities of Texas: Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, El Paso, and into their modern form. The Texas agriculture and the newly started oil industry used Mexican immigrants exclusively. And he says the only serious mistake the government of Texas made in this period is keeping the segregation laws. When the Depression hit in the 1930s, hundreds of thousands of alienated Mexicans left for California. And if they hadn't had the segregation laws, they would have stayed in Texas. Of all the states west of Mississippi, Texas was most severely affected, not because of the Great Depression itself, but because of this gigantic loss of its most precious resource, the immigrant labor. He says if Texas's Christian principle of open borders was combined with the Christian principle of treating the stranger as the homeborn, the history of that state would be much greater than it is today. The state's refusal to yield and to close its borders was hated by both the United States and the Mexican governments. Both were heavily socialistic. And so there was the Bracero program. It was called a Mutual Agreement for Letting Migrant Workers into the United States. It was started in 1942 with the purpose of redirecting the migrant flow from Texas to other states. There was a huge difference between the Bracero program and Texas's policy. Texas allowed individuals to travel freely and the employer to employ them freely. Okay, that's what we want to have. That's local economy, right? That's a local economy, free market program in Texas. The individual travels freely where he wishes and from wherever he is from, and employers hire them freely. That is to say, without reporting on themselves, without asking permission from the good people. The Bracero program imposed government control and registration requirements on both migrants and employers. All right. Government program doesn't just enslave strangers and aliens, it enslaves the American as well. Texas employers refused to join the program, and the government of Texas stayed out. When the state eventually joined the program, it still kept its borders open in defiance of both national governments, that is to say, the government in New Mexico and the good people in Washington. As strange as this may sound to many Americans and even Texans who do not know their history, it took a large-scale military operation to clear the immigrants out of the United States at the request and the cooperation of the Mexican government to force Texas into submission. This is a narrative with which no doubt you're unfamiliar, but it is, according to this Texan, what happened. It was called Operation Wetback. It started under President Eisenhower in 1954. The federal government deployed its Border Patrol troops, many of whom were military, returning from Europe in Texas, rounding up Hispanics. Some of them were U.S. citizens, and either shipping them by sea to Veracruz or driving them deep into the Mexican desert and leaving them there to die. Texas, nevertheless, kept its border open, And Texas farmers continued employing illegal, so-called illegal immigrants. Thus, at times, Operation Wetback even turned on Texans themselves, punishing Texan employers for hiring immigrants. Worth noting is the fact that in many instances, the federal troops were joined by volunteer vigilante groups from Cesar Chavez's UFW trade union. The volunteers were more cruel than the government troops in their mistreatment of the immigrants. Modern conservatives and Christians should be aware of the fact that they are supporting policies for which socialist governments and Marxist trade unions fought in the past. It wasn't until 1962 that Texas was forced to submit to this political and military pressure from two national governments and take measures to close its borders. This ended the only real example of resistance by a lesser magistrate in the area of immigration control in the history of the United States. So we have at Nooganomics.com a story by this same writer, Buchidad Marinov, who's a Bulgarian immigrant living in Texas. He's a Christian man, a writer, and a translator of Christian theological treatises by Dr. Rushdoony and others into Bulgarian, his native language. And you can read that at Nooganomics.com. And it says the point of the piece is that Governor Haslam here in Tennessee has made some movement to resist the federal unloading of Syrian refugees, is not acting in terms of the doctrine of the lesser magistrate. Now, that is a political idea, a political concept that arises out of Christianity. There are many examples of this doctrine in the scriptures, in the holy writ of Christianity. And think of Daniel before King Nebuchadnezzar, right? And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego defying that idolatrous king. They resisted his claims upon their souls and upon their persons, and as magistrates intervened on behalf of their people. Well, the doctrine of the lesser magistrate is one that says the local economy defines itself. The local clerk, the local sheriff are people, since they're required to uphold the Constitution, make the Constitution, which is a free market document, they make the Constitution live by defying and rejecting and nullifying and making null and void those rules, those claims of rules, those opinions, if you will, those resolutions sometimes that come from remote authorities. And what they are trying to do when such authorities act is defend the right and resist the false claims of authorities elsewhere, acting often outside of their authority. And it's not just that they're evil, right? It's not just that the lesser magistrate in the Christian doctrine of the doctrine of the lesser magistrate, it's not just that he's defying evil, but he's defying acts which are lawless pursuant to the law of that given authority elsewhere. So if Governor Haslam is bound by the Constitution, he is incapable of acting contrary to it. And when he does, well, his acts and the opinions of his attorney general, all of them are without force and they are nullities. And yet, though they be that way in the way of marriage, we all agree, right? Every county clerk, the hallowed Christian man here in Hamilton County, Bill Knowles, a practicing Christian, right? A man who counts the Lord Jesus as a savior, says that no, the high court opinion in Washington, Obergefell versus Hodges, truly reflects the law, the state of the law, and is in fact a law. And he has to take this opinion and wreak it as if it were a law upon the Tennessee Constitution, upon its statutes, and redefine all those things, making them null and void. And now is the law of Chattanooga and Hamilton County. That certainly is what he did, and I don't know that he has any twangs of conscience for it. I'm sure in his mind, he was the courageous one, right? He was the courageous one to do his duty, unpleasant though it may be, and to yield to poofter unions as if they were lawful lawful marriage. Mohammadinism, in the essay at Nooganomics.com, makes some vital points. They're vital because they raise the question of what the purpose of government is. Local economy and the free market don't view the government as a ministry, okay? They, in the sense that it has an expansive role, right? Government is a negative, it is a ministry, but it's a negative ministry. It's not a positive ministry. The positive ones are found in the free market. They're found in the family, and they're found in the church. The church, which is the locus for morality, right? The locus for the law of God, where the law of God is taught. And people who are faithful believers hear about the law of God in their churches. And so they know what is right and what is wrong, what is lawful and what is lawless. And so local economy as an idea holds that the state is a negative institution, and that these other institutions, the family, the church, society, private associations, commerce, these are where the positive things are done, namely charity. Charity, I guess, is the big one, and even security. Now that one there, that point there is the one that I hope that catches your attention, because the state cannot have charge of security. The state cannot have charge of security. The state has charge, the king, if you will, the magistrate has charge of one thing, and that is justice. If it has charge of security, we argue at Nooganomics.com, then it cannot be stopped in eventually taking over all of culture and all of society. And that's what's happened. We have what that theory espouses. We have the government in charge of security, not just justice, right? And so we face an end game now with the federal power, which has absorbed virtually everything to itself and cannot stop doing it. It cannot. It has a kind of ontological imperative to continue its expansion. It cannot stop expanding. It cannot stop absorbing yet other areas that are maybe only marginally under its submission. It cannot stop absorbing them. And because this is happening, and because there's an acceleration of this process in the past 8 years, we are seeing what we have to understand is an important point, an important end game point, or a turning point, if you will. And that will be reflected in all sectors of the economy that rely on confidence, right? Confidence upholds the cartel national economy, and our confidence in it, right? Our confidence in the national economy, in credit, in free money, is day by day, hour by hour, continually sapping, diminishing, weakening, making less vibrant local economy here in Chattanooga, the free market here in Chattanooga, making paltry and petty and small the capitalist creation efforts of, let's say, Lamppost Group, or the Chattanooga Renaissance Fund, or even the feminine Angel Capital Group here in town, and others. These are all very small efforts. They're all very slight. We think much of them, right? We make much of them. They are in the paper. We read in the Sunday editions about fundraising online, crowdsourced fundraising. A terrific story, by the way. And yet these efforts are very small. They're very small compared to what they could be. And the reason they're so small is because the state has shifted its duty, not to being a negative force only, but to being a positive force for good, not negative, but positive. And therefore, since its mission is now suddenly in everything, to make everything secure and safe, we're facing a series of crises, which I think will require prudence on your part. And that's why that's one reason I suggest you be an investor in yourself, in your own business. And to help you in that field, I would like you to consider calling Bruce Krebs at Entrepreneur Source. He will help get you into a franchise. If you don't have a business idea of your own, Bruce will help you find the franchise that fits your interests, your background, your budget, He'll tell you how to get $150,000 essentially in credit from the SBA on your signature. And he runs Entrepreneur Source. Call Bruce Krebs at 875-5621. Have a plan B. Plan B is what you need, and Bruce can help you get that. Now, another man in the same line that might give you some advice is Eric Pelton. He's the numbers guy. And if you're just starting a business, maybe one of your own devising, one of your own product, your own gift, something that arises out of your own genius perhaps, or your own experience in a particular field as employee, right? Well, Eric will talk with you and help you get your feet on the ground. He's also the man who can help you with the numbers once the numbers start getting a little bigger, right? Once you launch. Eric Pelton is his name. He's a CPA, and his website is ejpelton.com. ejpelton.com. 622-3156. That's 622-3156. If we have a biblical view of government, then we have to understand that government cannot be about safety and security of its citizens. I know you haven't heard that before, maybe, but I want you to think with me about that. If safety and security are the point of government and not justice, well, what do you end up getting? Do you end up getting what we have today? We have what we have today in the security state because we believe that the civil authority, that the king, that the state, if you will, has a positive duty, a positive job, and not just a negative one. I would like to suggest that it needs to be purely negative. And in the next permutation, as the United States disappears, as Tennessee perhaps disappears, and new arrangements take over in the North American continent, there may be one place or two, maybe here or there, where you'll find a body of people who form themselves apart from the modern state in some other arrangement, not quasi-public, maybe quasi-private. And the magistrate, the man with the sword, will have a very, very limited job, very limited, and the limits are the 10 Commandments.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We expect a very wet and foggy start to your Monday with more showers moving through, high 63 to 65. Tonight, some lingering showers, more fog, lows upper 50s. For Tuesday, another round of rain will push on through near 65, gradually drying out and turning cooler for the midweek. Old Man Winter is coming back soon, but Dodge City Ski Shop will keep you and your family toasty warm with the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. That's Dodge City Ski Shop, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Celebrate the holidays with cheer and basement bargain prices and one-stop package in the Sunrise Market Center's Sunny Daisy, the brand new one-stop package beverage store on Old Dayton Pike, just north of the Thrasher Light, with the best prices in town. Enjoy the lowest prices on beer, wine, liquor, and soft drinks. Hey, mention you heard this ad on Hot News Talk Radio and get 5% off your purchase. That's right. Mention you heard this on the radio and you'll get 5% off. The brand new one-stop package beverage store in Sunny Daisy. Their prices are always the lowest prices in town. The lowest prices you'll find in the finest of adult beverages. The brand new one-stop package in South Sunny Daisy at the Sunrise Market, featuring great prices on gas, bread, and milk. The Sunrise Market just across from Charlie's in Sunny Daisy. And remember, always drink responsibly.
Get 10% off every case of wine.
You have an event coming up for the holidays, or maybe it is your daughter's wedding, or maybe just a church or office party, then you need to select Choo Choo Barbecue. That's correct, Choo Choo Barbecue. Whether you like pork, chicken, or beef, oh yes, Choo Choo Barbecue with their savory rub flavor. Oh my goodness, it's making me hungry right now. You add in their delicious smoked aroma, and you have set the table for a perfect meal with Choo Choo Barbecue. That's right, Choo Choo Barbecue. Why don't you give them a call right now? 423-843-9554. That's 843-9554. Call 423-843-9554. Choo Choo Barbecue. You know where it's located, off of Hickson Pike, right there at the Valley Brook area. Don't kid yourself. Your stomach is already on the way.
You feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pam Puso at a global climate conference outside Paris.
Nothing will deter us from building the future we want for our children.
President Obama pushing for a powerful universal deal on limiting global warming. He also met with his Russian counterpart to talk about the crises in Syria and Ukraine and Russia's ongoing tensions with Turkey.
Vladimir Putin complained Moscow had yet to receive compensation or an apology after Ankara brought down its Sukhoi bomber. Turkey says it warned Moscow 10 times within 5 minutes to get out of its airspace.
Fox's Jessica Gallagher, a charter bus carrying college students overturned south of Richmond, Virginia.
We're very fortunate that there weren't more injured seriously than what there were.
Lieutenant Jason Elmore with Chesterfield County Fire and EMS. One person seriously hurt. Dozens more have minor injuries. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the liveliest media platform in Chattanooga, arguing vigorously on many vital points, giving you up-to-date information. In the morning from 6 to 9, we have America's Morning News. We have my show. My name is David Tulis. I'm glad you're giving me a couple of minutes of your time. We're here, or I'm here, I should say, 9 to 11 every weekday. At 11, just after me, we've got Russell, our media star. We've got a show called Binary that he taking over from Digital Drive. The focus is on you and digital gadgets for you. After Russell, I promise he will have a lot for you, and you'll be much better. You'll use more of the capacity of your smartphone than you're using now. And we'll be able to thank Russell and Binary, his new show, for that. After him is Colin Cowherd. And then right in between Colin Cowherd and Sean Hannity, we've got Keon Rose with Clutch with Keon, our local sports expert. And we've got Russell again at Hot News now at 5, the local drive home. More from Colin at 6. And we have Coast to Coast AM with George Noory in the night watches. And my name is David Tulis. We're the CBS NFL NASCAR station here in Chattanooga, covering sports, covering things from the manly perspective. We are a testosteronal station, and would like to serve that very large group that includes you, my listener, you, the guy listener, and all kinds of shows, from shooting shows to smoking shows. And we also want you to be a responsible man and buy a fine bottle of wine from One Stop Package, the beverage store in South Saudi Daisy, right next to the Sunrise Markets. And there's 10% off on a case of wine if you want to really stock up for for the next couple of years, buy a case of wine and save 10%. That's the One Stop Package Store at the Sunrise Market in South Side Daisy. Armando's is also someone you need to think about. Armando's, you might miss it, but it's right there at the Thrasher light on Hickson Pike, the new light going in just there at the entrance of Chester Frost Park. And maybe you haven't seen it, but it's a great little restaurant to go to. And Anthony Johnston is the proprietor there, and it's Armando's of Hickson. Great burger and fries, just the solid American food that we like, and that we to which we treat ourselves when we have a yearning and when we want to kind of break away from our increasingly healthful diet. And I know you, my listener, are encouraging your sweetheart to shop local, to have more vegetables and more fruits, and to be stringent on what you put in your gullet. But remember, when you eat at a local restaurant, you're supporting a local economy. And here's how radio works: when you eat at the restaurant of someone whose name you hear on our station, you are supporting hot news talk radio, and you're supporting me, David Tulis. And my argument is love your neighbor, buy local. And in the details, you might say, we say that that near is better than far, that small is better than big, and that simple beats complex. Simple beats complex. And down in the footnotes where the fleas fight with scimitar and javelin, one is the Crusader and one is the Muslim. Okay, we'll put it that way. We've got personal is better than corporate, and the physical is better than abstract. We've got our modern Western Sharia types, right? They think everything abstract is good. These are the people who have trigger warnings, right? The trigger warning people are the abstract ones. And the earthy ones, they're people like you and your children, right? Your children are earthy types, they're substantive types, and they are in the physical realm. And I do thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. And we are trying to explore something that's it's kind of hard to get a hold of, but I think we can understand local economy partly by seeing its devastation. I think we can understand the fruits of the debt economy, the fruits of total centralization, and if we look at them in the context of its damage, or their damage, if you will, to local economy, we can understand local economy better and yearn for it. Now, we can't bring about local economy just by jawboning about it, right? We can't make it more vigorous just by talking it up. On the other hand, you, my listener, are the man who matters, right? And so your ideas, your interests matter to me. And what I want to do is, I don't want to change your mind fundamentally about anything, but what I would like to do is suggest a 1 degree change of course, just 1 degree. And because I'm thinking, well, 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line, that 1 degree change is miles and miles away of where you're going now. Okay, so what I'm thinking of is a slight change now will bring about changes in maybe your child rearing, right? Maybe your investment strategy, maybe your idea of domicile and address, maybe your status as employee versus entrepreneur, right? Your status as someone who shunted your parents into a nursing home to one who says, I really can't do that anymore, and mom and dad are going to come home with us, even though it's going to be a lot of trouble. That man, right? That man has gotten there somehow, and he's gotten there because he's taking charge and taking responsibility. He's relying on market solutions and personal responsibility. And one of my favorite writers I want you to know is Charles U. Smith. He's got a great book called Resistance, Revolution, and Liberation, a model for positive change, as he calls it. It's kind of a blah deck on that title. But the point, the analysis is tremendous. And one of the things he points out is that the state's expansion comes at the expense of 2 important areas: community and marketplace. He says some see the withering of community as occurring off camera, so to speak, for reasons that had nothing to do with the state. The decline of community left an opening that has been filled by the state. This view discounts an active process of encroachment by the central state that is not benign, but rather an uncontrollable expansion of a superorganism. at the expense of less centralized, more diverse systems. I'm thinking here of the church. I'm thinking of the family. I'm thinking of neighborhoods. Do we really have neighborhoods anymore? Well, much less so. The ones we have, if there's a neighborhood association, it comes about because some government actor wanted to create a neighborhood association, right? They didn't arise organically in Chattanooga. Many of them were formed by the mayor's office, right? The executive branch of city government, which also operates the police department. the same system, right? You want to have neighborhoods organized so you can control them, right? You can communicate with them, right? That's kind of the idea of community associations in the past 20 years in Chattanooga. The same can be said of the marketplace, which is now a state-managed platform for perception management and private predation. The primary mechanism the state has used to supplant community is bribery, entitlements that demand complicity. When enough of the citizenry are thus bound to support the state's control, lest their personal share, right, of the largesse be threatened, then a citizen-supported tyranny has been established. The productive minority, he says, is then coerced to support and defend the unproductive state and its vast class of dependents. And he discusses what's lost with community. Community is essentially a self-organizing, decentralized, opt-in system of trust. Only those who have paid their dues with honest effort on behalf of the community are allowed to draw benefits or gains. So you see how that works? In community, you have to be a participant to gain from it. And the gains that you get are not contractual rights, right? They're not like insurance, in which you have a contractual right to a payment based on the terms of the contract. And he says the special case is charity, in which a community freely offers surplus to the needy without demanding any exchange for value or labor. As anyone involved in community work can attest, sometimes the gain is meager compared to the investment made, and sometimes there is no payoff at all except inner fulfillment. The point is that the gain from an investment in community and social capital is uncertain. Okay, now that's important to point out, because when you're dealing with the state, the payoff is guaranteed, you must quote guaranteed, and immediate. We can characterize community as a system in which risk and gain are intimately connected. Any gain, which often takes the form of intangible social capital, is commensurate with the investment made over time. The transparent marketplace is also characterized by upfront investment and highly correlated risk and gain. Indeed, risk is ever present in any open market and can only be hedged and not eradicated. And what the state promises is risk-free connection, right? Risk-free services. Put your children in public school and it's risk-free. There's no charge to you. There's only a benefit. But what's happened is that the state has mispriced risk. It has mispriced it. You think you're safe in your health care because you're going to get on Medicare, right? Well, think about people like me. If I'm trying to find a doctor for my mother, 92 years old, on Medicare. Well, who's going to take a patient like that, right? She's a patient who's losing the appeal because of her payment. The payment scheme upon which she relies. The risk is there, even though the state, when it absorbs people and it absorbs systems and absorbs communities into it, the risk is still there, though we're told that there's no risk. We're told it's guaranteed. And though you don't have a constitutional right to Social Security or welfare, you have procedural rights. And these, of course, are made so large that we think that Social Security, that Medicare are a kind of insurance, that we can draw the benefits. He says risk has not vanished simply because the state mandates it. Any system that collects $10,000 per person in Medicare taxes and pays out $300,000 per person is doomed to insolvency via default or hyperinflation. So all that has actually happened is the risk has been transferred by the state to the entire economy. This transfer masks the risk, but only up until the built-up instability breaks out. Another way to state this, separate risk from gain project, and it is the ultimate state project that defines all the state's actions, is that the state deliberately misprices risk to persuade the citizens to surrender their independence and to surrender, he says, the resilient communities of which they were a part. Along these same lines, we might usefully catalog what was traded by the private citizens for their risk-free dependence on the state. Well, here's what they lost: their self-reliance, their political independence, their control of their own assets and future, and also their resilient community. We talk about community, and I think we use the term very loosely today. And there is no such thing as the academic community or the gay community, or the homeschool community. These aren't communities. These are networks. They're really different. Community is something that connects with place and people in that place. And I would suggest maybe people who live in that place. So there's a connection of identification. I think it has a geographic component, whereas the normal use of the word community does not. You have a community in your neighborhood if everybody knows everybody else. If people stop, if people dread to drive through and just wave at people, right? They would rather stop and chat or even walk through. That's a neighborhood. That's a community. And these are, I think, largely gone, except for a few examples. And then those examples are based on individuals who are quirky, okay? Maybe people like you, my listener. Maybe people like you. They're controlled, and so they give up also their assets, the control of their assets, the controls of their future. And also they give up, because they take the state's free, risk-free gimme, they're giving up their resilient community, which is offloaded as a low-gain, high-risk system. And it's offloaded, meaning it's made useless because it's not needed. Why do we need to have community when we have the state? Why do we need to have neighbors when we have welfare? Why do we need to have neighbors and friends who have companies and businesses when we have the unemployment check? You see what's happening here? And the whole system has become very brittle. And I think that we are in the situation because the state views itself not as a negative, but as a positive. And that is the idea, and the people who are professing Christians believe this is remarkable. It is remarkable because what they've done is they've turned the state into an idol. They think the state has a duty to provide more than just justice, right? Well, think about that just for a second. A state that provides justice is waiting for an evil thing to happen. All right, that's what the state does. A state that cares only about justice waits for the crime to happen. It doesn't try to control all the circumstances and all the lives that touch on people that might become part of a crime, which is what the welfare state, the surveillance state are all about, especially with our fusion centers and the fusion center here in Hamilton County, in the one block away from the county courthouse. There's a fusion center there where the pre-crime program of Minority Report is already in effect. It's already going on here in Hamilton County. If you want to read about that, go to Nooganomics.com, Nooganomics.com. In the scriptures that people heard yesterday, maybe not you, but other people you know, those in your office, the scriptures which they were taught holds that the government, civil government, is a negative institution. It doesn't have any function of providing a positive product for society. For the most part, the state is supposed to be inactive, okay? If the state is inactive except when a crime has been committed or a dispute arises between private persons that cannot be resolved by private conflict resolution. The power of the state is enormous compared to the power of other institutions, but it's limited in the scriptural framework. It's in the constitutional framework. I would like to suggest it is limited and reactive for the task of justice. Bojidab Marinov says requires action only to real and already committed crimes. Now, if you hold the other view that the state is responsible for security, for what he calls preemptive justice, right? If the state here in Hamilton County and in Tennessee is to preempt crime, well, what you have created is a totalitarian and authoritarian system. Is that what you want? Is that what you, my listener, favor? Do you favor a total system that prevents crime from happening? Why? Well, if you have that, you have to have a very strong executive, and that's what we have. We have very powerful executive branches which read people's minds and try to predict, who's going to commit a crime and exclude that party before the crime happens, right? And if the task of the state, the task of the civil magistrate is safety and security, well, you're turning over non-criminals to the state. You're turning over people who might be criminals or who are partly criminals or who have the wrong mental complex and therefore are potential criminals. You're turning them over to the state. You can't limit the state's function to criminals only if that happens. That means that the state is in your business all the time. And you, my listener, even though you may not be a churchgoer, you are constantly subject to this because Christian people have made this mistake. So when the scriptures say that judgment begins at the house of God, what that means is that when an evil befalls a nation or a kingdom, where do you look to blame? You look at the Christian church, whose people should be the most sapient, the most wise, the most prudent, the most caring about justice, the most particular about equity. And they're not doing it. They're not doing it. If we call for government to be in charge of safety, we have become idolaters because that gives the state, the magistrate, a religious duty. Think for a second about safety. We have in Tennessee a Department of Safety and Homeland Security. And what does it do? Well, it is in charge of a very large swath of the administrative state. But think of the Jacobins, the French revolutionaries, who had a committee of public safety. Think of the Nazi social democrats, the security service, right? And the SIPO, the security police. Mussolini had tulips, or TULPS, which were laws for public safety. The communists had the KGB, the Committee for State Security. And they had the Stasi, the state security. We have in our time, we have the Department of Homeland Security. We have the Transportation Security Administration, the National Security Agency. And we have cops who are always doing things for your safety. Even when they unlawfully arrest and torture, they torture innocent people for safety and security. And they are using buzzwords. They're using things that the people like you have granted to them. They can be preemptive, right? They're crashing your face along the pavement because you said, what's your authority? You asked that simple question, what's your authority and am I free to go? And that officer struck out at you, knocked you to the ground. And as you were falling down, by the way, your hand swept up and hit his shoulder just slightly. Well, he's going to charge you with assault of an officer, right? Because you threatened his safety. He thought, as that hand of yours went by him as you were falling backwards with a bloody cheek, he thought that you were assaulting him, and he's going to make sure that you pay for that. You pay for that. If we have preemptive government, that is what we're asking for. And I don't think that local economy is going to prosper if we have preemptive government, if we have government that cares about safety and security. We don't want government to be involved in safety and security. Well, if there's a criminal, if there's a Muslim going to massacre people in a mall, well, he's going to do it, right? He's going to do it, and we can't stop him ahead of time. But if every man is armed and if every man prays, then the damage he does at the beginning of his escapade, of his courageous, heroic, pro-jihad, pro-Muslim, pro-Allah jihad at the mall is thwarted. It's thwarted because you, my listener, are there with your 9mm under your jacket, and you're going to protect women and children, right? Your women and children aren't there, but you're still going to protect others. And you hear the sound of gunfire over at the Pennies, and you're going to go there. You're going to go that direction. You're not going to run away. You're just a common guy, but you know that you have a duty. And that terrorist, that gunman, that crazed individual who is a customer of the pharmacy industry, he is going to meet his end more quickly rather than have a prolonged bout of tedium, because that's what massacres are to people who are hopped up on mind-altering drugs. They are killing people because they're bored, and they want to show everybody how bored they are and that they care not. Of course, if he's a Muslim, he's killing them because they deserve death. They have not repented, and they have not joined him in 5 o'clock prayers toward Mecca. Well, my name is David Tulis, and my show is here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. I want you to support my radio station. You support my radio station, and you support me. Not by writing me a check, okay? We don't beg for money here. We are a commercial radio station. We provide a great, great service with Colin Cowherd, with Sean Hannity, with Russell Stroud, the kid, with Binary, his new show, with America's Morning News, with our Drive Home show, all kinds of great shows here. With CBS News, we provide a public service. And so you, my listener, support me, David Tulis, by patronizing and supporting and loving my advertisers, the people whose names are on our station: Wimpy's, Armando's, Ducks, Eric Pelton, Chattanooga Sports Institute, Superior Air Systems, Patrick Neal at Edward Jones. All these people are people who say, you know, David Tulis, what you say interests me, and I want your listener to call me. Have your listener call me. Now, that's how we work here at our radio station. You support me by going to Choo Choo Barbecue and saying, you know, I'm going to load up on barbecue sandwiches for my office party, and I'm going to do it because I heard your ad. I heard your spot from David Tulis and AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And that's us. We are here serving you, loving our neighbors, buying local. And we here argue for free markets and local economy. And local economy is a thing. It may just be an ideal. Maybe we don't have it left. Maybe it's all gone. But you know, it's there in our idea, okay? And if we have that idea of local economy and free markets, we can have it back. We just have to work at it. Now, you think about your wife and children. Give them some time. And B, think about your customer. Make him prosper, and you are going to prosper as well. That's my hope for you, my listener.
Expect a very wet and foggy start to your Monday with more showers moving through. High 63 to 65 tonight. Some lingering showers, more fog, lows upper 50s. For Tuesday, another round of rain will push on through near 65, gradually drying out and turning cooler for the midweek. Old Man Winter is coming back soon, but Dodge City Ski Shop will keep you and your family toasty warm with the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. That's Dodge City Ski Shop, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
I love my Flex Loan from Advance Financial. I needed cash, I needed it fast, and I didn't want to get a payday loan. My Flex Loan from Advance Financial is not a payday loan. It's a line of credit. I only pay for the cash I need, and I only pay for the time that I need it. There's no lump sum payment. My Advance Financial Flex Loan is an open line of credit, and I can get cash anytime I need it.
Visit one of our 24/7 locations and get the cash you need today. Advance Financial. Welcome.
Lay your burdens down at the Woodhouse. Leave all your worries at the door. Just take some time. We're transforming life.
Happy holidays at the Wood. From the Woodhouse Day Spa. Holiday gift cards available at chattanooga.woodhousespas.com.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Patrick Neal, in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
I'm the type of guy that likes a big breakfast, a couple of eggs, bacon, and some gravy and biscuits. I get that at Wimpy's. I know they have specials at lunch every day. That includes a big meat and three menu. At night, I want some good comfort food. Maybe some smoked brisket, pulled barbecue, or ribs. They've got that too. Wimpy's the type of place where you can go in and have a good conversation, catch up what's going on in Saudi Daisy, and have some great food. That's why I go to Wimpy's. You know where it's at, on Dayton Boulevard, right across from City Hall. That's Wimpy's. Give them a call. 423-332-6201. Did you hear me? It's 332-6201. Wimpy's. They're even on Facebook. At Wimpy's, I know your mouth is watering just like mine. So let's go to Wimpy's.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead. 622-3156.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer service, the most competitive prices around.
Cell Surgeon, a painless operation to fix your sick device.
Well, if you have a cheap charger or something that's not really designed for your phone, it can mess with your battery. It can actually fry your phone. So you need to make sure you have a quality product that's going to be designed for your phone.
Cell Surgeon, your smartphone doctor's in the house at the Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
You charge it in the morning and, by noon it's at 50% under normal use. That means your battery's pretty much dead. And once you've reached that point, it starts to deteriorate.
Cell Surgeon, call 423-668-0100 or go to cellphonerepairchattanooga.com.
We do free estimates. If your phone's not working properly, bring it in when we're happy to take a look at it and diagnose it and see what we think is wrong with it at no charge. Most phone repairs can be done in 30 minutes or less.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
Don't take it in the bathroom.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Saudi Daisy, Chattanooga. CBS News. I'm Steve Kathan. At a global climate summit in Paris, President Obama has tended to other matters with his Russian counterpart. CBS's Pam Coulter is covering.
His sidelines talk with Russia's Vladimir Putin was focused on the conflicts in Syria and Ukraine. Mr. Obama urged Putin to decrease tensions with Turkey after the downing of a Russian warplane and to focus Russian airstrikes on ISIS targets in Syria and not on opponents of the Assad regime. He also reminded Putin of his commitments to help end the fighting in Ukraine.
Now, the president spoke in urgent and stark terms about the climate challenges facing world leaders.
We have broken the old arguments for inaction. We've proved that strong economic growth and a safer environment no longer have to conflict with one another.
The hope is a climate deal can be worked out over the next 2 weeks. A new CBS News New York Times poll finds 66% of Americans think the U.S. should join an international treaty to reduce carbon emissions. 53% think global warming is caused by human activity. Jury selection today in the trial of the first of 6 Baltimore police officers charged in connection with the death of Freddie Gray earlier this year. CBS's Barry Bagnetto is at the courthouse.
Judge Barry Williams asked them if they knew any of the potential witnesses, reading a list that included dozens of Baltimore City Police Department members. About half stood when asked if they had ever been victims of crime or investigated or arrested by police. About a third admitted they have strong feelings about police misconduct and the charges in this case.
Now to Colorado Springs, where CBS's David Begnaud tells us about today's court action in the case against a man accused of killing 3 people last week at Planned Parenthood.
Robert Louis Deere will not appear before a judge in person. We're told it will happen by video link. He will be at the county jail. The judge will be in court, and it's scheduled to happen around 1:30 local time, Colorado Springs.
The victims were a police officer, an Iraq war vet, and a mother of 2. All were accompanying friends at the clinic. Donald Trump will avoid media coverage today as he meets with some African-American religious leaders. CBS's Major Garrett.
The Trump campaign had given an indication that press conference could be about an endorsement from several of these black pastors for the Trump for presidency campaign. Well, they didn't want to do it, and therefore the Trump campaign canceled the press conference.
Trump says he believes the black ministers were pressured not to endorse him. Some have condemned what they call his insensitive and incendiary rhetoric during the campaign. The number of people signing contracts to buy homes rose a bit in October. Adam DeSanctis of the National Association of Realtors says it's a modest rebound at best.
Overall, I would say the pending sales have started to plateau a little as buyers continue to struggle with limited inventory and prices that are rising too fast in some markets.
Wall Street, the Dow is down 13 points. This is CBS News.
I love traffic.
gridlock gets me giddy because the 2-week SiriusXM free listening event is on now, beaming me a whole lot of happy. Rock happy, sports happy, pop talk, comedy, and news happy. Tune in now to leave road rage in the dust and get all traffic happy.
The SiriusXM free listening event now. Free, not available on select radios.
Not available in California, Louisiana, and Virginia.
Listeners, do you have startup capital and want to invest in a business with incredible profit potential? Fresh Healthy Vending, the #1 healthy vending franchise in North America, is growing fast, and we're looking for people right here in the local area to become Fresh Healthy Vending franchise owners and help our business continue to